Number 10. Instant entertainment access. The moment silence appears, a screen lights up. That tiny reflex feels harmless, even smart. Why sit with emptiness when entertainment is infinite? But this is where mental fragility quietly begins. Instant entertainment access trains the brain to expect stimulation on demand, like a nervous system hooked to a button. There is no waiting, no anticipation, no buildup, only constant arrival. Over time, the mind forgets how to stretch toward meaning. It only knows how to receive. Every scroll teaches the same lesson. Discomfort should be erased immediately. A dull moment? Replace it. A heavy thought? Drown it. The brain stops practicing emotional endurance and starts outsourcing regulation to content. This rewires attention. Focus becomes brittle, unable to hold one idea without novelty dripping into it. Even joy thins out, because pleasure without effort rarely settles deep. The danger isn't entertainment itself, it's the loss of inner pacing. When everything is available now, patience stops developing. Curiosity dies faster. Creativity struggles, because creation requires lingering in uncertainty. The mind becomes reactive instead of generative, always waiting for the next hit to tell it how to feel. Eventually, silence feels threatening. Stillness feels wrong. When stimulation disappears, anxiety rushes in, not because something is wrong, but because the brain was never taught to stand alone. Instant entertainment didn't make life richer, it made tolerance weaker. And a mind that cannot tolerate emptiness becomes fragile the moment the noise stops. Number 9. Immediate emotional soothing. The moment an emotion rises, stress, sadness, irritation, something reaches to soften it. A message, a snack, a distraction, a reassurance. Immediate emotional soothing feels like self-care, but it quietly trains the mind to fear its own signals. Instead of asking why an emotion appeared, we rush to silence it. The brain learns that feelings are problems, not information. Over time, emotional reflexes replace emotional intelligence. Discomfort becomes something to fix instantly, not something to understand. The nervous system never completes its natural cycle of rise, peak, and release. It stays shallow, never learning that emotions can be survived without intervention. This creates fragility, not because emotions are strong, but because tolerance is weak. Soothing too quickly interrupts growth. Frustration teaches persistence. Sadness deepens empathy. Anxiety sharpens awareness. When these states are numbed immediately, their lessons never land. The mind becomes dependent on external regulation, apps, people, routines, to stay balanced. Without them, it panics. There's another cost. Authenticity erodes. If every feeling must be neutralized fast, you stop trusting your inner world. You doubt your reactions. You smooth yourself down for comfort instead of clarity. Eventually, emotions feel confusing and overwhelming, not because they are intense, but because you rarely let them speak. Immediate soothing promises peace, but delivers fragility. A mind that never sits with discomfort never discovers resilience. Emotional strength isn't about feeling good quickly, it's about staying present long enough for meaning to form. Number 8. Avoiding physical discomfort. The body sends small signals every day. Cold, heat, hunger, fatigue, strain. Modern comfort answers them instantly. Temperature is adjusted, effort is minimized, movement is reduced. At first, this feels like progress. Why tolerate discomfort when technology can erase it? But slowly, the mind absorbs a dangerous idea. Discomfort is abnormal. When physical unease is always avoided, the nervous system loses calibration. The body was designed to adapt, not be constantly protected. Mild strain builds strength. Controlled discomfort sharpens awareness. When these experiences disappear, resilience doesn't grow. It atrophies. The mind becomes hypersensitive, interpreting normal sensations as threats. This changes perception. A little tiredness feels overwhelming. Slight inconvenience feels unfair. The threshold for too much drops lower each year. Life hasn't become harsher. The tolerance has shrunk. Physical softness leaks into mental fragility because the brain learns from the body how to interpret stress. Avoidance also disconnects you from embodiment. When comfort is automatic, you stop listening to signals and start managing symptoms. You don't build endurance, you bypass it. This creates a quiet panic when effort is unavoidable. Long walks, hard work, lack of control. The body hasn't been trained to cooperate under strain. Physical discomfort was never the enemy. It was the training ground. By eliminating it, we didn't become safer. We became less capable. A mind that never practices standing firm inside the body becomes fragile the moment life demands effort. Number 7. Over-optimizing convenience. Every extra step is being erased. One tap instead of 3, one delivery instead of a walk, one shortcut instead of learning the route. Convenience feels like intelligence applied to life, but When everything is optimized, something vital disappears. Effort stops being normal. The mind quietly learns that resistance is a flaw in the system, not a natural part of living. Over-optimization removes micro-struggles, and those micro-struggles were doing invisible work. They trained patience. They built sequencing, problem-solving, emotional pacing. When convenience removes these friction points, the brain loses daily reps of mild stress. Without those reps, tolerance doesn't scale. It shrinks. The result is a strange contradiction. Life becomes easier, yet the mind feels more overwhelmed. Small tasks feel heavy. Minor delays trigger irritation. The nervous system expects flow without interruption, and when reality doesn't comply, it reacts as if something is broken. This is not weakness of character. It's a system trained for smoothness, not resilience. Convenience also distorts value. When everything is immediate, effort feels pointless. Skills feel optional. Depth feels inefficient. The brain starts preferring speed over substance, comfort over competence. You stop trusting slow processes, learning, healing, growth, because they don't deliver instant relief. Over-optimizing convenience doesn't save energy, it misallocates it. The energy once used to adapt is now spent managing frustration. A mind that never pushes through friction loses its ability to stay steady when friction is unavoidable. And life, no matter how optimized, always brings resistance eventually. Number 6. Escaping boredom. Instantly. Boredom barely has time to exist anymore. The second it appears, it's erased by a phone, a thought, a click, a sound. We've trained ourselves to treat boredom like a mistake, something to fix immediately. But boredom was never empty space. It was a doorway, and closing it has consequences. Boredom is the mind without instructions. In that state, something uncomfortable happens. Your inner world gets louder. Old thoughts surface. Unresolved questions knock. Creativity begins to stretch. But when boredom is escaped instantly, none of that unfolds. The brain never learns how to stay with itself without stimulation. It panics at stillness because stillness was never practiced. This creates a fragile attention system. Focus becomes dependent on novelty. If something isn't immediately engaging, the mind abandons it. Reading feels hard. Thinking feels tiring. Depth feels boring. Not because it is, but because the brain was trained to expect constant reward. Boredom tolerance drops to zero, and with it, the ability to explore complex ideas. There's a deeper loss too: self-generated meaning. Boredom used to push humans to imagine, reflect, and create. When it's constantly interrupted, the mind becomes a consumer, not a producer. You wait to be entertained instead of discovering interest from within. Motivation weakens, because motivation often emerges after boredom, not before it. Escaping boredom instantly feels harmless, even productive. But a mind that cannot sit with nothing cannot build something meaningful. Boredom wasn't the enemy. It was the training ground for depth. Remove it, and the mind becomes restless, shallow, and quietly fragile. Number 5. Eliminating all friction. Friction has become the villain of modern life. Any delay, obstacle, or resistance is labeled inefficient and engineered away. Smooth interfaces, seamless services, zero-weight expectations. At first, this feels like progress, but friction wasn't just slowing you down, it was shaping you. When all friction disappears, the mind loses its training partner. Friction forces adjustment. It makes you pause, recalibrate, and choose. Without it, decisions flatten. Everything feels equally accessible, equally urgent, equally disposable. The brain stops practicing judgment because nothing pushes back. When resistance finally appears, conflict, complexity, limitation, it feels shocking, even unfair. The nervous system reacts as if something has gone wrong. Eliminating friction also weakens persistence. When outcomes arrive without resistance, effort feels optional. The moment something requires sustained attention, discomfort spikes. You're not unmotivated. You're undertrained. The mind learned to move only when the path was smooth. Any rough edge now feels like a signal to quit. There's a hidden cost to constant smoothness, loss of meaning. Friction creates contrast. It makes progress feel earned and outcomes feel real. Without resistance, experiences blur together. Satisfaction becomes thin because nothing was tested. The mind grows restless, chasing intensity to replace the depth friction once provided. A life without friction doesn't create freedom. It creates fragility. Because resilience is built by navigating resistance, not erasing it. When the world stops being smooth, a frictionless mind struggles to stand. Number 4. Avoiding small challenges. Small challenges used to be everywhere, remembering directions, fixing minor problems, tolerating awkward moments, figuring things out slowly. Now they're avoided by design. If something feels slightly difficult, it's skipped, delegated, or automated. This feels efficient, but the mind absorbs a silent message. challenge equals threat. And that message reshapes mental strength. Small challenges were never about achievement, they were about exposure. Each tiny difficulty trained the nervous system to stay calm while unsure, to act without perfect conditions. When these moments disappear, the brain stops rehearsing courage at low stakes. Then, when a real challenge appears, it feels disproportionately heavy. Avoidance also damages confidence. Confidence isn't built by comfort, it's built by evidence. Evidence that you can try, adjust, fail lightly, and continue. When small challenges are skipped, there's no proof stored in memory. The mind becomes cautious, not because it's wise, but because it lacks experience. There's a psychological compounding effect too. Avoid one small challenge, and the next feels larger. Avoid enough of them, and life starts feeling intimidating. Not because demands increased, but because your tolerance window narrowed. Fragility grows quietly, disguised as efficiency. Small challenges were mental vitamins, harmless to face, damaging to lack. By avoiding them, we didn't protect ourselves. We removed the daily training that made larger pressures survivable. A mind unused to small resistance breaks faster under big weight. Number 3, overprotecting mental energy. Save your energy, protect your peace. Don't drain yourself. These ideas sound wise, even necessary, but when taken too far, they quietly teach the mind that effort is dangerous. Overprotecting mental energy reframes normal engagement, thinking deeply, dealing with people, wrestling with problems, as a threat to be avoided. The brain starts treating participation itself as a cost. Mental energy was never meant to be preserved like a fragile resource. It was meant to circulate. Effort creates capacity. Engagement builds stamina. When you constantly pull back to conserve, the system never adapts. The mind becomes delicate, not rested. Even small demands feel exhausting, not because they are heavy, but because endurance was never trained. This overprotection also distorts priorities. Anything that requires sustained attention gets labeled not worth it. Hard conversations are skipped. Complex ideas are ignored. Long-term goals feel draining before they even begin. The mind starts choosing comfort over contribution, relief over growth. Life shrinks, not from lack of opportunity, but from fear of expenditure. There's a subtle anxiety underneath it all. When energy is treated as scarce, every interaction feels like a potential loss. You become defensive with your attention, guarded with your effort. Instead of feeling empowered, you feel depleted by default. Rest no longer restores you, because rest was never balanced by meaningful strain. Number 2, treating discomfort as danger. Somewhere along the way, discomfort stopped being a signal and started being treated like an emergency. A tight chest, an awkward silence, a spike of anxiety. These sensations now trigger immediate alarm. The mind rushes to escape, fix, or suppress. But discomfort was never proof of harm. It was feedback, and misreading it quietly rewires fear into everyday life. When discomfort is treated as danger, the nervous system loses nuance. It stops distinguishing between threat and effort, between pain and growth. A difficult conversation feels unsafe. A challenging task feels overwhelming. Even uncertainty feels tolerable. The brain learns one rule only. If it feels bad, get out. This rule sounds protective, but it steadily erodes courage. Avoiding discomfort doesn't remove it, it amplifies it. Each escape teaches the mind that the sensation was indeed dangerous. Next time, the reaction arrives faster, stronger. What used to be mild unease becomes anxiety. What was once manageable tension becomes panic. Fragility grows through reinforcement, not weakness. Number 1, confusing ease with well-being. When life feels smooth, we assume we're doing well. When nothing aches, pushes, or demands, we label it balance. Ease has quietly become the signal for well-being. But ease is not the same as health. It's the absence of friction, not the presence of strength. And mistaking one for the other slowly weakens the mind. Well-being used to include capacity, the ability to handle strain, uncertainty, and effort without collapsing. Ease removes the need for that capacity. If everything flows, you never test your limits. If nothing challenges you, you never discover what you can carry. The mind feels calm, but that calm is conditional. It exists only as long as life stays gentle. This confusion creates a fragile baseline. The moment difficulty appears, well-being feels lost. Stress is interpreted as failure. Effort feels like damage. The mind doesn't ask, "Can I adapt?" It asks, "How do I return to comfort?" Growth becomes suspect because growth rarely feels easy while it's happening. There's a deeper illusion at work. Ease feels good immediately, while well-being often feels neutral or even uncomfortable at first. Exercise strains before it strengthens. Learning frustrates before it clarifies. Responsibility weighs before it empowers. When ease is treated as the goal, these processes are abandoned too early. The mind chooses relief over resilience. True well-being isn't fragile calm. It's quiet confidence, the knowledge that discomfort won't break you. When ease is mistaken for health, life feels safe but narrow, and the mind, unused to pressure, becomes delicate the moment reality stops being kind. There's also a loss of trust in the self. If every uncomfortable feeling is treated as a warning, you stop believing you can handle normal strain. Confidence collapses, not because you failed, but because you never stayed long enough to succeed. Discomfort becomes a stop sign instead of a doorway. Discomfort was meant to guide, not govern. It points toward edges where growth happens. When the mind labels it as danger, life becomes smaller and more controlled, but also more fearful. A brain trained to fear sensation cannot build resilience. It can only build avoidance. Mental energy doesn't strengthen by hiding it away. It strengthens by being used, stretched, recovered, and used again. When protection replaces participation, fragility replaces resilience. A mind that fears spending energy slowly forgets how to generate it.